Sure. Thank you very much. I know I'm in a very dangerous place right now. I spent between you and your lunch. So I will do the very best that I can to keep my time. Yeah, this is a super pretentious title, and I'll try to break down how we've addressed this issue. What I'm going to present today is part of the work that we've been doing in the Open Monitor and in one of the tasks in the work package 7, and the task is related to assessing climate change risks to EU firms. So you can imagine it's quite complex. And what we've tried to do is take it a little bit closer to the private sector that we've come to know because we work with. Just as an idea, Codrina is a small private company in Bucharest offering geospatial services based on Earth observation. And we have been partnering with various beneficiaries in the insurance sector. So part of the things I'm going to present comes from that direction as well. So the slides are basically built on three main pillars. The first one is what exactly does this climate change risk mean for the financial sector and more specifically to the insurance sector. We are going to look a little bit of some numbers, trying to best understand using a use case. It is basically a close-up on what does climate change risk mean on an insurance company that is operating in Europe, in a European country, in Romania. And the last part is related to how we propose to use the elements that the entire project has developed. The entire Open Earth Monitor project has developed to offer a better understanding on these climate change risks for the use case that we've mentioned. So it's absolutely no surprise for anyone in the scientific community that climate change exists. It brings a lot of risks to our world, to the different sector, and so on and so on. This has been, and it is continually analyzed for decades now. So there's no debate. There's no debate there. You're probably also aware of the European Climate Risk Assessment that was published. This is an assessment published by the European Environmental Agency last year. And it actually identifies 36 climate change risks that are affecting our continent, that are affecting Europe at this point. And of course, they have quite dire conclusions that all parts of Europe are already experiencing climate extremes that are unprecedented in history. And some climate risks are already at a critical level. It will be worse and worse if something is not done. What is interesting or what is important for our discussion today is that this specific assessment is also defining what a cascading risk means, meaning that if something happens in a specific part of the ecosystem, let's say, it will affect other ecosystems. And this is actually where the financial stability comes in and when the insurance comes in. So going to the private sector and the insurance sector, there are a few characteristics that I really want to highlight because they are important for the way that they function. So it is a highly, highly regulated industry. They answer to specific overarching authorities in a very standardized manner. They have standardized disclosures. Sometimes they're pretty transparent, but as you can imagine, the data that comes from these reporting that they do is not always public. I will come back to that later. They are run by private capital, right? They have multinational structures, meaning that their geographical scope is very rarely limited to one smaller region. Our use case is quite specific, and you will see in a moment why, but usually they have a wide geographic scope. One of the main things is that being with private capital, their overarching scope is to make money for their stakeholders. And that idea changes the way that they interact with, for example, companies like ours that are offering scientific-based services. And another thing that I wanted to mention here, being with a private capital, wanting to make profit, they've understood a long time ago that climate change and the risks that are placed on our ecosystem also affects them. So in 2004, at the invitation of Kofi Annan, about 20 insurance companies that were handling assets of over 6 trillion USD came together in order to try to understand how they can address this situation that is arising in the world without losing a lot of money. So this was one of the reports that came out from that work. It was published in 2004, and I really wanted to highlight that it has a very appropriate title for the way that they function. Who cares? Wins. Actually, this is the report from which today we have the ESG indicators that you are probably familiar with, the environmental, social, governance indicators. Going further, since then, the scientific community, of course, has done a great job in better defining and clearing what are the climate-related risks. There are two main categories related to physical risks and the transition risk. The physical ones, they're a very obvious one. Maybe the transition risks are not that clear. It refers to the risk that a company is going through in order to change its activities to a greener way of doing that. And here there are a lot of elements that can put a pressure, including a financial pressure, on that specific insurance company that goes from policy and regulations to the way it operates, reputation, liability, and so on and so forth. Why are these important? These are important because, as I've mentioned, the insurance sector is highly regulated. They are forced it's compulsory for them to do their own audit, this own risk and solvency assessment, in which they report in which way their company and their activities are going to be affected in time due to various situations. Since 2021, 2022, elements that were related to climate change risks were included in this report as well. So until 2022, the insurance sector was not obliged to take this into consideration. We're talking now strictly with respect to Europe. In Europe, the main agency that is overseeing how the financial and with more how the insurance sector is working is the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority. And I wanted to highlight this because you can see here that what companies need to do now, insurance company, is to map all of the climatic change risks onto what they already know, their prudential risks. As I've mentioned at the beginning, this data is not necessarily public. Of course, out of obvious reasons, there are a lot of economic data that they can't make public, but these kind of reports get to institutions such as the European Central Bank that was already mentioned, that does reports like this one that I've highlighted here, showing the importance of the insurance sector when it comes to reducing climate-related financial stability risks. So in that report, it is highly emphasized that this insurance sector is facing growing challenges from the physical risks. And another thing that is highlighted in more than one place is that in Europe, now we're talking strictly about Europe, in Europe, a lot of companies and a lot of households are not insured against these risks. You will see that Romania is no different. But the idea is that Romania is actually following the same trend as Europe. I will not insist on that one. There is only one thing that I do want to mention before I go to the use case, is with respect to the idea that the insurance sector is represented by an important number, let's say, of professional associations, of insurance associations that act as a liaison between the insurance market and each individual company towards the overarching institutions like EOPA or the European Central Bank or the European System Risk Board and so on. Another thing that I want to mention is that at the international level, there are institutions such as OECD or the International Monetary Fund that are publishing and maintaining these climate change dashboards where they try to make public data related to climate risk indicators. Another thing to mention is, for example, Finos initiative, which is an initiative that is funded and supported by Linux Foundation, and it refers to activities that they do, of course, open source for the financial sector. And here they also have a specific sector for the insurance sector. Of course, there are existing tools and methodologies that I will not go into at this point, but that exist and that are used at this point. For example, InData is one of the most used. It is an initiative that has started in ETH Zurich, and it is maintained by their climate risk working group, and it is used by the International Association of Insurance Supervisors in trying to understand the climate risks for the insurance sector. And of course, there is the dashboard that comes from the Environmental Program Finance Initiative. They're trying their best to keep an updated Excel, as you'll see if you look at it, Excel with all the tools that are built, tools and services that are built around the world that address at least one part of what climate change risk means for the insurance sector. So the slides will be available. You will be able to see all of these links if interested. So moving super fast towards the second part of the presentation, the use case of Romania. The reality, probably most of you know it, a fair area, let's say a population of 20 million. As a climate, officially we are continental with 4 distinct seasons. We are 35th out of 192 when it comes to GDP. The Human Development Index is 0.85, which is considered high, so fairly decent. Trying to take a look and see how badly was Romania, this European country, hit in the last 25 years by natural disasters. I have taken a screenshot from the International Disaster Database, and we can see that in the last 25 years, 72 natural disasters have hit. I have highlighted the ones that did, let's say, the most damage. But what about the insurance part of it? So according to this database, all of the damages that were done were not insured, nothing was paid for it. So is it true or not? Well, the reality is that Romania as a country does not have this tradition of insuring your own goods, insuring your house, and so on. We don't have that. Usually what happens, especially in the rural part of the country, is that when a natural disaster hits, even if we talk about an earthquake, a landslide, or a flood, people expect for the government to come and help. And to come and help can mean a lot of things. It means that they bring in the army to clear everything out, and they even pay for the reconstruction of their house. And this comes out of a special budget that the government has. So it is a reality, and it does happen. Since 2005, Romania has also had access to the European Union Solidarity Fund. So I also only wanted to highlight here that as previously in the disaster database, we can see that for floods were the ones that triggered most of the money requests coming from Romania. So maybe, just maybe, there are better actions on how to handle this situation. And indeed it is. In 2004, with the World Bank Group, Romania started a project, one that was innovative even for the World Bank. and it was called Hazard Risk Mitigation and Emergency Preparedness. And then basically what it did is that World Bank specialists worked with the Romanian government and different agencies within the government in order to help the country in better mitigating when these natural disasters occur. Because as you will see a little bit later, floods occur every season, so every specific time it's recurrent. The project had in attention three main disaster types that hit Romania: floods, landslides, and earthquakes. I will not go through the numbers. You probably had the opportunity to read them, but I want to state the time. One of the very good things that came out from 2004 project with the World Bank was that the World Bank decided that the way that Romania did things at that point, always the government intervening and supporting its citizens, was not a good long-term solution. So what they said that maybe a national catastrophic insurance program would be a solution for you. And the good thing was that it did happen. And in 2008, Romania passed a law that is, that shouldn't be there. Romania passed a law that said that the Romanian territory is prone to landslides, floods, and earthquakes. We will build a pool of insurance against natural disasters, and every Romanian has to insure its household against these three. So this is a very summary of the legislation. So what happened was that this pool of insurance, which is called PAI, came to life. It is basically an association. I think at the beginning was about 12 insurance companies that were working in Romania. So they came together. They made this pool of insurers in order to offer the insurance policy for each household in Romania. In time, some of them went bankrupt, probably others came, and so on. There's some very clear and distinct characteristics about PAID. Firstly, this has a social component, meaning that the insurance policy values are strictly given by law. They are not allowed to change the price. There are two tiers based on the type of material that the building is made of. There is a maximum reimbursement that can be given to the person that is asking for it. It doesn't matter how expensive the house is, they will get a specific sum. You can see it there. So PAID is not allowed to do any underwriting, meaning that if I know your house is in a place where is most likely going to be flooded every year, I cannot change the price for you. You will pay 20 euros for that, and I can give you 20K. So this is by law, and they cannot change it. And importantly, because they function with a law, under legislation, they are obliged to sell this insurance to anyone who wants it. So in theory, all houses must be insured by PAID. But how does the money flow? Because as I've mentioned, this is a private company. It has private capital. It's a specific kind of, it functions under a law, but it has private capital. So why is the insurance sector so important in the financial entire sector? So with respect to banks, markets, stocks, and so on. Because the insurance companies are one of the biggest investments. This is how they make money. They invest the money that they have from the insurance policies that they sell. Their biggest, this is a simplistic way to put it, but basically this is how it is. So the biggest expense that they have yearly, or depending on how they sign this contract, is the contract for reinsurance. PAID is a company that is taking risk from the house owner, and the risk of PAID is taking another reinsurance company. I as PAID will pay that company in order to take this risk from me. And that company is a reinsurance company that is allowed to do underwriting and understands what my risks are. So going further, at this point in time, in 2025, PAID has the biggest reinsurance contract in Central Eastern. 2 minutes, Ilie. in Central Eastern Europe. That is 1.4 billion. We do not know, of course, how much the contract costs them, because of course this is whatever kind of commercial secret, but there is a catch. And the catch is that at this point, Payid is only insuring 20% of the household in Romania, 20%. So what is the problem? This is just how many houses are insured per counties, for not three, for example, in this situation. Not even Bucharest is reaching 50%. This is a logarithmic scale of how the way that the reinsurance contract has grown in years as their policies are growing, as the insurance policies are growing. Will not insist here either. And going further, I just want to show that since 2018, since they're publishing their data, most money went due to flooding. And another thing that I want to mention and I want to highlight is that in this particular situation, elements that are not related to climate, for example, earthquakes, can really affect their business. So according to Meteo Romania, according to the official data, now there are more than 900 people that live in areas that are affected by flood. Approximately 88,000 households are at a constant risk of flooding. Remember, Payid is obliged by law to insure everyone. So even if they know those 88,000 are going to be flooded, they still have to do it. So the presentation this morning was very good because indeed the idea that we are facing we are closing into a critical situation related to the fact that we cannot anymore insure households and businesses across Europe due to the climate change risks. I think it was very well said. And I also like the question that you've mentioned, Johannes, at some point, saying that if governments are not going to pay for this, and if scientists don't have the money to pay for this, then who is going to do it? Well, maybe one answer would be maybe the private sector, maybe the insurance sector. But what I've learned from my experience and with working with them is that we kind of need to change our discourse, saying that if we can control this, it will be good for mankind, but might not really appeal. If you say, if we can control this, then they will, you will continue to make money. That will probably be a better way to go. So better actions in the future. Romania is insuring 20% of its households. What would a reinsurance contract mean if it would insure 100%? And if this is indeed the way to go in the end, if this is what we have to do. So I don't know if you've probably noticed this, but more and more in the media, and not only, there is this worry coming from the financial sector related to the fact that we're becoming uninsurable. Done in just 1 minute. So what I want to mention is that in a very recent interview that was given by an important person, Ilie, which is an insurance company, is that this idea of public-private partnership that we already have in Romania can and could be the solution at this point. So we came late in the game and we're probably doing something good. How do you want to handle this with respect to Open Earth Monitor? We are just trying to think and to present, at least with respect to to our use case, a potential understanding of what it means for 100% insured houses with respect to the data that we are generating from the Open Earth Monitor. So, okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there's maybe one urgent question. It's a very interesting, lots of facts, and yeah, it's how does Romania compare to European average in insurance?
What exactly do you mean? The price,
The percentage of insured households.
well, that I don't know. I don't know. unfortunately, but what I did see is that
I would say Netherlands is more than 90%, it's true, or maybe 100%.
fair, different countries, right?
Okay. We will stop now, thank you, Codrina. We stop. We over time, we have a lunch break, 1:30, you come back here, we will split into groups. Before that, we're going to have a group photo. We'll turn on the lights, and I think the best place to take a group photo is in front of this table. The photo will be from that direction. So please, everybody come in front of the table here. So we'll have a group photo.
Viola, can you stop
And
your
after
camera?
that, we go to the lunch is the same place as the coffee break. And don't forget, 1:30 you come back, and there are two parallel sessions. One is a workshop on global soil data. If you need soil data, we made a lot of high quality soil data. Otherwise, you can to this one to watch orals.